in the way.
Okay, click here. Okay, remote script. As a preliminary matter, this is Brian Sullivan, Chair of the Affordable Housing Trust. Permit me to confirm all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Brooke Moore.
Aye.
Penny Dye.
Aye.
Rima Sherry.
Aye.
I'm here. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Tucker Holland.
Yeah, here, sorry.
No problem. Ken Bogran.
Present.
Okay, members anticipated on the speaker, please respond in the affirmative. Billy Cassidy.
Here.
Dave Arminetti.
Yes, here. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for joining us. Vicky Marsh.
Here.
I see a few other members. Elizabeth Blair.
Here.
Robert Little.
Just listening.
Okay, great. And
Thank
Charlene
you.
Puza. Okay, I'll move on down. Good afternoon. This is an open meeting. The Affordable Housing Trust is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Affordable Housing Trust is convening by video conference via the Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials provided to the trust body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear communication of our business, ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, remember to mute your phone or your computer when you're not speaking. Remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their name, be acknowledged, and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote in this meeting will be taken by roll call. Okay, with that, we will move to the first item on the agenda. Tucker, I think some items, just to note that we have today were not uploaded as the packet. Some of the applications, will those be forthcoming to the website?
Yes, we can put the closing costs, CFAP, non personal information stuff on the website.
Great, thank you. With that, I'm looking for an approval of the agenda. Is there a motion
So moved.
and a second?
I'll second.
Second from Penny. I roll. Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
Rima Sherry.
Aye.
Do I have anybody else? I
You.
think that's it. Brian Sullivan's and I. An approval of the minutes of past minutes. I think we're going to take that up at a future meeting. I will now open up item 4 for public comment. Is there any members of the public that would like to speak about anything not on the agenda? Seeing none. Oh, Brooke.
Brian, there's someone who just came in. It says Mine's iPhone. They need to change their name, I think. So it's first and last name. For
Correct.
this
It's
policy.
me, Dave, and I have no idea how to do that.
Oh, hi,
Oh.
Dave. Tucker can
Hi.
do that for you.
Perfect. Thank you, Tucker. Sorry I'm late. Hi, Brooke.
Hi, Dave.
You're on my screen. I see nobody else but you.
Makes me feel
Um,
special.
Well, congratulations on the record to Dave as becoming a new grandparent again this weekend. A healthy little boy, if I understand correctly. Congratulations to your family, Dave.
Yep. Thank you.
Oh, okay, now that we know we have Dave, with that, we'll go to the first application we have. for CCAP. The Scots at 43A Macy. Does anybody have any questions or comments about this application? Brooke?
Anne, is this the foreclosure property? No?
No, this is Nate Scott, who was a speaker at your meeting a couple of months ago.
Okay.
The young man who just moved here?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh, wow, good for him. That was quick and committed. If any other questions on the application? Brooke?
So if there aren't any questions, I would make a motion to approve up to $15,000 of closing cost assistance pending final closing costs for the property at 43A Macy's Lane for Nate Scott.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Dave by roll call. Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Dave Iverson,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye. The next application we have is for 40.5 Essex Road, Maldonado and Hernandez. Is there anybody that would have any questions on the applications or anybody to make a presentation? Seeing none, look for a motion on the application. Tucker, did you wave your hand?
I just was going to mention about this particular application. It's exciting in that this covenant home is a result of the covenant formation assistance program that we have been implementing in conjunction with Housing Nantucket. So it's nice to see that the program has resulted in its intended goal.
Oh, that's cool. So with this one, we'll get paid back the original 10 when we lend out the closing cost.
That's another item a little further down the list for you to approve.
Great, excellent. So with that, I'll look for a motion on this application.
I will make that motion for up to $15,000 of closing cost assistance for the Maldonado Hernandez family for the property at 40.5 Essex Road pending return of anything above final closing costs.
A second.
Second.
Second from Rima by roll call. Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Dave Iverson,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye. The next one we have is a loan discharge of 4 Hull Lane.
So as just mentioned, it's exciting. This is actually the second of the covenant formation assistance program properties where that property is now ready to go into covenant buyers' hands. And so we would just ask the trust, and Vicky, correct me if you want to phrase this any differently, but we would ask the trust to authorize the discharge of this mortgage at the time of the closing when we are repaid, and for the chair to be authorized to sign on behalf of the trust.
Correct.
Can we do, oh, okay, that's cool.
Do you not want to sign? Do you want to have
No.
Brooke sign?
Well, I wanted to make us both available, but I have a follow-up question about Brooke, because technically Brooke resigned for 3 hours as a member at large, and then has been appointed as the select board member to the trust. And so does she retain her vice chair seat through that resignation, or do we need to reappoint her?
you
Just to make sure
you need to reappoint her.
Okay, so we'll take
And
that.
am I eligible as a select board member to be vice chair? That would be the other question.
Exactly.
Okay, so I will sign that document. I'm looking for a motion to.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to authorize the discharge of a mortgage at the time of the closing and authorize the chair to sign the document. Sorry, for 4 Hull Lane.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, second from Rima by roll call. Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Dave Iverson,
Aye.
And Brian Sullivan's an aye. Next one is another loan discharge, 40.5 Essex Road, Vorse. So this is, are there any questions? This is a similar scenario. Go ahead, Tucker.
I just had a question actually for Anne. So Anne, I think that like what actually went out the door with regard to the assistance on this one was around 5,000, maybe a little bit more. But I just, the way that the discharge is written, it's for that specific amount. And I wasn't sure whether the original mortgage covered the full 10. So we just want to have the right number in the document.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, it was for 10,000. We, Housing Nantucket, have a designated account for that 10,000 from which we've been drawing any kind of expenditures that the homeowner had approved. So we have a balance. So I believe the discharge would need to be for $10,000 because the homeowner, as part of the closing costs, is going to be paying Housing Nantucket back the 5,000 and change, and then we pay you all 10,000 back.
Right. So I think, Vicky, the way that it's written up right now includes only those monies that were expended, and I think the mortgage itself is for 10.
So I think it says, I thought it said that it was for, I have a copy of this. I thought it was for acknowledgement of the satisfaction of the note and amounts due.
I think there's a specific amount in any event.
My notes never, my discharge won't ever say the amount that's being paid. So the only thing that is referenced is the note and the amount due. The mortgage itself does state the amount of $10,000 on it. So as long as the note is paid off, this discharge covers that. So the amount that needs to be collected according to Ian is 10.
So
That's what we gave.
how about we make a motion to approve the loan discharge pending clarification of the legal documents by town council with the authorization to the chair to sign?
That works.
That works. Or,
Vicky?
yes, that works. Or I was just going to add that you would be authorized to sign provided the trust received the amount due under the, for the payoff of the mortgage and note. So you could do it that way as well.
One more
So
comment.
who's going to collect this money? And is there a closing set?
Go ahead, Ann.
The way that we were envisioning it working, because this is the first time that this has happened, that we have actually transacted on one of these CFAP loans. We told the closing attorney for I forget if it was the buyer or the seller, but anyway, one of the lines in the closing statement is an amount due to Housing Nantucket. You all would release your mortgage to them. And then after the fact, when we got that money back to us, then we can cut you a check for the full amount of the 10,000. So basically what I understood your discharge says is that basically they have fulfilled all the obligations of part of their mortgage, essentially, and our assurance to you that that will happen was enough. So that's my understanding.
Go ahead, Vicky.
So normally, in most closings that I've been involved in, the payoff for the mortgage goes to the holder of the mortgage, which is the trust. So I'm a little confused as to why Housing Nantucket is getting the payoff rather than the trust itself. And normally I would not release the discharge until I receive the money also. So, and, you know, that's just the way closings are done. And most purchase and sale agreements have a provision in there that says the mortgage will be paid off and the mortgage will be paid off and discharged in normal conveyancing practices. So, you know, we have a discharge and we're holding it until we get our money. And they can still close. That's normally the way it's done with a bank even. So.
Well, that's fine. And then they'll just have to write the check to you.
Correct.
And we'll have to write a check to you, and then you'll be satisfied.
If the amount that they're writing is not $10,000.
That's right, because they only used 5,000 of it. And we have the rest to say of the 5,000, we have that 5,000.
Okay.
So we just thought it'd be easier for your accounting to just get the one check from us for 10,000, because that's what we did with the Stover transaction, but it wasn't really a transaction. It was just the 18 months transpired and he didn't transact. So then he gave us 10,000 and then we cut you a check for 10,000, and then you lifted the mortgage for him.
And who's the attorney representing the seller?
The seller, I'm so sorry, we're talking about, which one are we talking about? 4 Hall or 40 and
I think that Mike Wilson is the closing attorney on this one for the Moldano.
Vicky,
Are you
does
talking
it
about
make the
4
most
Hall?
sense for
No, we're
housing?
talking about 40 and a half Essex.
Because it's the same thing for 4 Hall, but
Yeah.
if you're talking about 40 and a half Essex, the seller's attorney is Stephen Cohen.
Vicky, does it make the most sense for Housing Nantucket to fund the closing attorney, the delta? And then when they are prepared to pay us the full amount, we deliver the discharge to the closing attorney? So Housing Nantucket would need to fund that account prior to the closing.
So you're saying, let's say this 5,000, let's just call it 5,000. So we would need to cut a check for 5,000 to the
Cohen.
seller's
Yeah,
attorney. And then the seller's attorney cuts a check for 10,000 after they get the 5,000 from the closing to the Affordable Housing Trust. So
and we would do the discharge at that point.
Why don't we just have the closing attorney give the amount that's due under the payoff, and Housing Nantucket, and have that go to the trust, and have Housing Nantucket also cut a check. And when we get all our money, that being the trust, that we would just deliver the discharge.
because if the closing attorney is cutting a check for 10,000,
Why is the closing attorney cutting the
What,
check?
you guys were complicating this
Yeah,
unnecessarily.
I feel like I'm,
So Vicky, you were saying the closing attorney cuts a check for the funds utilized. Housing Nantucket cuts a check for the balance of the 10,000. Those two checks combined
10,000.
repay the loan and the mortgage gets discharged.
Correct. I think to me that makes just the most sense.
so you want us to cut a check to the closing attorney or
No,
to
the
you all?
trust. It comes back to the trust. The trust's got to be the one that's going to hold all the money. Once we get all the money, you have money that hasn't been used, correct?
Right,
All right. So that money needs to come back to the trust,
agree.
and the money that was used needs to be paid off at the closing. So that comes from the closing attorney. So when we get both those checks, then we can issue the discharge to Michael Wilson. I'm happy to talk to Mike Wilson about it if you want me to.
Is that going to delay the closing or?
No, I don't think so. When's the closing set up for?
Yeah, I think 4 Hall Lane was this month, so we only have another week.
This is
40 and a
40
half.
and a half.
Oh,
Essex.
sorry, 40 and a half, sorry. Wait,
So in their application, it says 5/31.
Next week.
Okay, so they don't necessarily, when they close, that's when Mike Wilson can start delivering funds to the trust. So he's not going to deliver the funds prior to the closing. So
And
he
same with
would,
us. So you expect us to bring a check to you, or how do we get you your money?
to the trust,
Yeah.
you could either, yeah, you could deliver a check to the trust. Or, I mean, who has the accounts, I guess?
We do,
Um,
housing and ticket.
No, the accounts for the trust.
Oh,
What do you do with the money that you receive for the trust? Does anybody know? Just.
You got one back.
I'll be happy to take.
Well,
Do we have to spend time talking about this all together?
No, we really
Just figure
don't.
it
I
out?
mean, it's not that complicated. I'm happy to make arrangements with Mike Wilson. Why don't I do that?
I think that would be the most judicious way to proceed.
Yeah, I can call Mike Wilson. And the only thing I would ask, Ian, is that you have a check for the balance of the funds that you're holding cut to go to the Affordable Housing Trust. And, you know, and I'll find out from Mike Wilson when the day of the closing is, confirm that with him. And then I can let you know when you need to have a check ready. And I think that's it. And then, so the only thing we would ask Brian to do, you know, provided there's a vote authorizing him to sign, is to sign the discharge, and we'll hold it until we receive the funds. Okay? And I'll let everybody know. I'll talk to Mike Wilson.
And Vicky, I think you'll have the same conversation with Steve Cohen because it's two different deals.
Oh, which deal is Steve Cohen's deal?
I think his is the Essex Road
Okay.
and Mike is the Hull Lane.
Oh, okay.
Mike was, yeah, I thought he was representing the buyer, or, sorry, you're right, seller on that one.
I'll confirm this.
Great.
Okay, I'll take care of confirming it and just make sure that the appropriate parties are advised. And
So I'm looking for a motion to be authorized to sign the discharge. Penny?
I've got one.
Hey, that's awesome. Thank you.
I'm gonna make a motion to authorize the discharge of the mortgage at the discharge of the mortgage at the time of closing for 40.5 Essex Road, and authorize the chair to sign the documents.
There a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, I got a second from Rima by roll. Brooke Moore?
Aye.
Penny Dye?
Aye.
Rima Sherry?
Aye.
Dave Iverson?
Aye.
And Brian Sullivan's an aye. Next application we have is a CFAP application from Borgeson on 101 Somerset Road. I need somebody, I don't have a vice chair, but I need somebody to take this on for me because I'm going to recuse. Penny?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, I wasn't volunteering. I was gonna suggest that Tucker takes over just to speak to
Great.
it.
Okay. Well, actually, I'll ask Anne to maybe briefly talk about it.
Oh, sure. So this is a regular covenant formation assistance program application from a homeowner who intends to create a covenant home for himself. So he is going to be using CFAP to get the surveying and other costs to delineate where the covenant property will be and separate that from the market rate property, which he will sell. This is a year-round Nantucket resident.
What size property, what size is the total parcel, Anne?
Let's see. We don't have that information readily here. It's
What's the address, Ann?
101 Somerset Road.
I can answer that question. It's hold on. It's 0.45 acres.
So are there any questions amongst the board members, or would someone like to make a motion?
So So I'm happy to make a motion to authorize a covenant formation assistance loan for the property at 101 Somerset Road to Mr. Borgeson.
I'll second.
Yeah, I think your motion should designate two individuals to sign, specifically in the view of the fact that you don't have a chair or a vice chair.
Okay, so I authorize, and then amend my motion to authorize Penny, Di, and Rima Sherry to sign.
Great, thank you. So by roll call, on the motion as amended, Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Okay, aye.
Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Dave Iverson.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Great, thank you guys. Brooke?
Good job, Tucker.
Thank you.
I'd just like to make a comment on this. I think this is an interesting thing that I've been talking about a lot, about the use of the qualified family member exemption and or, for people to downsize on their own property. And that I think that this is something that we should try to market more heavily in the covenant program, especially for our aging seniors who are in properties that are too large for them, that they can downsize within their own property. And hopefully when we have a community land trust, we can pick up some of those houses and keep them in the year-round family.
Agreed.
Great.
With that, we're through all the applications and we'll move to item number 6, update on 31 Fairgrounds. Anne?
Thank you. Well, we were really excited last week because the boxes started to arrive. So we heard last month about how they had gotten off the assembly line and then since then have been on a barge and made their way to the barge and then come on over. So that's buildings 1 and 8. And I will turn it over to Billy to talk about what's going to happen next.
Thanks, Anne. Oh, you, Bill?
Hi, Mr. Chairman. So a week from today is the day they get unwrapped, unpacked, and set in place. And depending upon how Tuesday goes, I'll call the ball probably midday or so as to whether the crane stays and we continue, or if I let it go and it comes back on Friday. But in any event, that is the schedule. And so having said that, that is great. But another great thing happened last week, and that was the approval of the solar array by the HDC. And, this is a really big deal going forward. This, if we're able to shake a little bit of loot out of the trees somewhere, this will create a net zero project, which is, it's unusual to say the least. And I think that this is the beginning of something really special. So that's all I have for right now, other than, please forgive me, Mr. Chairman, but thank you for that last one. I think that really makes a cool difference. I think you had your hand in something about that. So that's it.
Thank you, Bill. Penny?
Yeah, I just have a question for Billy about sort of public access to the site, safety rules, that kind of thing. Are you going to do something so people aren't just sort of showing up all the time?
Yes, we are going to be doing something about that. I won't get into a great amount of detail right now, but if you remember, forgive me, somebody had what I thought was a great idea about putting up some, I'll use the term loosely, signage out front to describe what's happening, and Matt placing some of his work boards that were at the inauguration of festivities or what have you. We're going to create that, and along with that, we will place some signage up about public access and so on and so forth. And I think we're also going to I'm going to make an attempt to provide a telephone number, my phone number, And if people really want to come and have a tour, then I can meet them on site, or we can work with something. But I don't want to put up a big keep out, stay away, nobody's welcome. I'd like it to be inviting, but we need to get a little ahead of ourselves, a little ahead of where we're at right now, prior to that happening. So.
Thanks.
Thanks, Billy. Dave?
I don't mean to backtrack, but I just, through you, Mr. Chair, if I could ask Billy, have you started to shake those trees, or do you have a plan to shake those trees for the funding on the solar array?
So the answer is Anne has been communicating with some others and circled me in on something at the beginning of the week. And I think that she and I have a little more discussion to do before I talk about anything. Ultimately, I'm going to attempt to follow her lead, although I will support anything that I can. But I don't want to. She has more familiarity with this than I do, and I don't want to get in the way of anything that might make me look like a nitwit.
Can't be done.
Thanks.
Oh, yes, it certainly can.
Any other questions for Billy or Ann while we have them on 31 Fairgrounds? Okay, a lot of no shaking heads. Thank you to the two of you for the progress and the update. We'll jump over to item number 7 with Dave Arminetti, the Richmond Wildfire Acceleration. Dave, floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and board members, and staff and council. Good to see and hear everybody again. Glad to provide a little update here on our wildflower acceleration project. I should take a moment to congratulate Billy and Ann and their teams for their progress. We certainly know what it takes firsthand to get to that point, and it is exciting to see the trailers show up, knowing everything that goes into it from the start to this point, and their teams and support from the trust and the select board and the whole community. So it's a big deal, and we're glad to see them making progress. We are continuing to progress out at our 24 unit portion of our Meadows 2 project. Last month when we updated the board, we had just started to occupy the first 8 unit building, and we're about 2/3 of the way through completing the second building, which is our 10 unit building, and just starting on our last of the 3 buildings, which is our 6 unit building. Everything is continuing to go well. The 10 unit M building, which is the one closest to Old South Road, is nearing completion. I think we're anticipating a C of O there from Paul and his group, probably about 8-10 days out, and market rate tenants will start to move in there. And then we're about a month out, or a little less than a month out, for the last building. So by the 3rd week of June, we should be done and have certificates of occupancy for all 24 units. All the market rate tenants will probably be in by the end of the month. And if you've been by there recently, in addition to all the other activity around with some of the single family homes and the duplexes going up, you'll see that we've loamed most of the site, starting to get the landscaping queued up and ready to go. And Victor Brandon and his group will be in to do the sidewalks and the curbing in the next week or 10 days. So it'll start to look a lot more finished, more like a community and less like a construction site real soon, which is great. And then on the AMI unit side, our application period closed. We were anticipating having our lottery remotely online last night, but our consultants at SEB had a little bit of a personal childcare issue, so we had to defer our lottery until Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. The same call-in numbers and the same links are functioning. So we'll have our lottery completed probably by about 7 p.m. Wednesday, and then we'll start the process of landlord qualifying people by the lottery waiting list. Right up to the moment, I understand from SEB that we had they gave me a total number of 182 applicants for the 12 units. So not a shock to the board and the staff. I'm sure, we're way oversubscribed in terms of people who have at least qualified from a baseline income standpoint for the lottery. We're oversubscribed 15 to 1, which is great in terms of demand, but unfortunate in terms of us being able to provide as many units as we would like. Obviously, for every one winner, we're going to have 14 people who don't end up getting a unit in this round, but we're continuing to move forward. A lot of those households have applied for multiple tiers of AMI, as you all understand. A lot of people will qualify either for the 50 and the 80, or the 80 and the 100% tiers. So that's total number of applicants, but we actually have like 380 lottery spots that we're going to draw because of the multiple tiering applications. So we'll keep the board and the staff updated on that, but full speed ahead. A lot of gratitude to our general contractor and subcontractors who really kept things going. Obviously, we're in real good weather window here, so weather's not an issue, and our buildings are totally weather tight. So it's just keeping the subs focused on finishing. And, we have a great group of local contractors out there, the electricians, the plumbers who are the primary, and the HVAC who are the primary subcontractors for the modulars are all on island local. So they're here every day. They've done all our buildings before, and it's all going, really smoothly. We're kind of in a really good groove now in terms of construction. So all that's good. We'll keep, as your saying goes, doing our best to put heads in beds and on to the next phase, hopefully shortly. And we appreciate your continued interest and continued support. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Dave. Anybody have any questions for the Richmond Wildfire Acceleration while we have Dave here? Seeing none, I'll close that item and move to item 8, 7 Amelia Drive RFP.
Great, thank you all.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, thanks very much, David. Thanks, actually, to Ann, Billy, and their teams, and Dave and his team. It really is terrific to see how rapidly both of these projects, which were major initiatives last year, are coming together. So, so with regard to Amelia Drive RFP, unfortunately, did not have time to put something together for this packet. But I wanted to just get a little feedback from the board in order to be able to prepare something for when we next meet. And I guess we'll talk about that at the next meeting, this portion of the agenda. But so we had previously discussed the notion of putting out an RFP for development of the Amelia Drive location, which can support up to 3 units. And I just want to make sure it is the consensus of the board to be moving forward there with an RFP in that vein, and that I need some direction from the board on whether there is, in terms of how we evaluate proposals, what would classify more in the advantageous response versus disadvantageous. So topics in that regard would be whether there is a preference one way or the other on ownership versus rental for that location, as well as AMI levels served. And then to the extent that we can steer things this way, and this is kind of a question for Vicky. Can we make it effectively a criteria that it would be a nonprofit developer who we are looking for?
You can.
Okay.
You could say in there, when you set your criteria, it would be a nonprofit, organization. And then you can set your levels of experience, for instance, you know.
But we
criteria.
could limit it to only nonprofit developers in
Mhm.
terms of respondents. Okay.
Brooke?
Wrong mouse. Did we ever determine whether a commercial space is required in that neighborhood?
According to Andrew Vorse, no.
Okay, so it can be 3 residential units only. Okay.
Mhm.
So my interest in this is there are a lot of nonprofit organizations on Nantucket who have housing crises for their employees. And to me, but it is possible to have office space. That's allowable. So to me, I think it would be really interesting to somehow elevate in priority an existing local nonprofit that might be creating a home for itself, both in an office and for employee housing. And that if one unit were deed restricted at 80% AMI, then the other units could be market rate. Can we ask them to restrict them to employee housing of the nonprofit or other nonprofits on Nantucket?
Well, so one thing, and maybe Ken can clarify, sorry to interrupt you, Brooke, but
That's okay.
just one thing that Ken might be able to clarify. So 100% of the land purchase price for this property came from CPC funds. So I believe we are restricted at 100% AMI or less for everything that goes on there.
That is correct.
Okay. So that's interesting. So there you have it. So it's 100% AMI, period. Yep. And I like the idea of rentals. If I'm thinking about it in terms of nonprofit housing, staff housing, that it not be a home ownership that can't turn over or won't turn over as need changes in the nonprofit world. I don't know. It's coming off the top of my head.
Thank you, Brooke. Penny, I think I saw you raise your hand. Rima, I just saw yours.
Yeah, there's no requirement for any commercial space in these structures. And I just would like to say, I'd like to see us maximize residential space here. I'd also like to focus on maybe some smaller units for smaller households, if possible.
Thank you, Penny. Rima?
You're muted.
Rima, you need to unmute.
Old lady moment, sorry. I think that this area is appropriate for rentals, and possibly a duplex and a small cottage for the 3 would keep things, kind of scaled down, which is nice. Adequate parking, I think, very important. And screening, because they are in a commercial area and maybe they want to have, some sort of privacy from all the commercial activity that goes on the street. But yeah, I think, yes, maximize, residential potential, but keep the scale, comfortable and small, nothing big and loomy. And I don't know about basement. I don't know. I think maybe we should talk about if we're going to think about a basement unit or not. We had talked.
You should talk about it. Yeah.
For me, I don't know that a basement unit is on my priority, but interior storage is a priority for me. So whether that's taken advantage of in a basement or in a shed type building, I think that's critical, that each unit is offered interior storage. Come to Dave. Brooke, I did see you.
Yeah, not to repeat what I think both Penny and Rima voiced, but I think, yes, we should maximize residential. It should be a rental. I am not a huge fan of basement dwellings, but I think definitely storage space and more than adequate parking. I mean, I still battle with the one parking spot per bedroom because I don't believe that's adequate in this day and age on Nantucket. And I realize that it takes up building footprint, but I don't know. Maybe we could figure that one out. Thanks.
Thanks, Dave. Come to you, Brooke.
No, I was just going to say basements are great for utilities and laundry and that kind of thing. So.
I'm kind of torn between Brooke's statement about commercial use and non-for-profits and capturing 3 residentials. I do like the idea of small efficiencies. I think it is important if the site zones for 3 units that we get no less than 3 units. Interior storage is important. Yeah, it's definitely an like the abutter is an evolving situation at the moment. So it'll be interesting to just anecdotally is see how that plays out. But I'm in line with the other comments that were made. Brooke?
So just one last thing, the scale of most buildings, I mean, I'm now working out of that neighborhood part-time, is fairly substantial. And so I'm less concerned about scale than leaving open the possibility that an organization could have their office and 3 units for singles or couples at a scale that works in that space. So I think we should leave it open.
There is more of an there is an affordability index that makes sense if both things are happening on the same site in the scale and cost per square foot. So I can appreciate where you're coming from, and I see that. If it was just residential versus combining your, non-for-profit business use and residential, it could be more cost effective for those groups. So I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, recouping what they would be paying in rent in another location.
I am in the agreement that they should, that they are rental property versus sale.
I have a question about that, Zoe, through you to people that think it should be rental, not sales, or some combination of them. What's the rationale behind that? Somebody made the comment, better in this location. What does that mean?
Go ahead, Rima.
Well, that was me. Just because in such a commercial spot, I think people don't necessarily, want to settle in for the long haul. But I guess as a starter condominium apartment, possibly. But I kind of see it more as not long-term residents in there because, if you have kids and stuff, you don't really necessarily want to raise them on a busy road. So, it just, to me, it seems like it just seems like a more rental area than
I just think we need to be careful about classifying locations by use. I think there are a lot of people that don't have children that would be very happy to own anywhere. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Dave?
My thought process is similar to Rima's on this. I feel that, and I understand what Penny's saying, but I feel like this is kind of a jump starter. I mean, it is a very commercial area. It's very busy. I think that we have property that just lends better to ownership opportunities than this one. And that's really the only reason I say that. Thank you.
Okay, Tucker, does that give you the framework you were looking for to put together the RFP?
I mean, it's definitely very helpful feedback. The one thing I wanted to just clarify or understand is a better way to say it, is it feels like there's a leaning toward rental versus ownership versus, vis-a-vis what we're just talking about. Is counting on the SHI list an important consideration for this location?
For me, it is. Brooke?
Tucker, through Sully to you, what do you think?
Well, if it's going to be rental, then I think absolutely it should count. I mean, I could make the argument in a way I think that Penny might have been bringing up. I mean, there are folks who probably are, singles or small households, that maybe are a couple that may be looking for, condominium type living. And I think there probably are other places on that street that would fit that description, or if not on Amelia, in close proximity. So I don't know that I have as strong a feeling about it being rental necessarily, but if it were to be rental, it absolutely should count on the list.
For me, shy is important because it forces at least an 80% unit, whereas they could otherwise come to 100. So I think a shy qualification has some level of control on pricing down the road. So that's my opinion. Brooke?
That's what I was going to say. It's 1 unit at 80% and 2 units at 100% would get all 3 of them on the shy list.
Now, well, so here's a challenge question since we're doing this. If we're rating proposals and scores, is there any stronger rating for any units under 80%? If there's a 60%, if somebody can come forward with something that has value less than 80, does that weight stronger? Or should it? Rima?
Yeah, I think there's a big demand for the least expensive units. I think we see that in applications.
So, Mr. Chair, in the recent employee survey we did of town employees, which went out to 730 employees, full-time employees, there was a 50% response rate. The single largest category of responses indicating household income was in the 60 to 80% category.
I think it'd be really nice to weight it connected to that.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm thinking about is access for one of the units, right? Traditionally, we would see something commercial on the first floor and residential upstairs. Is there an opportunity to create a unit that's more accessible on ground level?
An ADA unit?
Yeah, an ADA qualified opportunity or. Go ahead, Tucker.
So I just wanted to also clarify my understanding with regard to the commercial aspect. This is what I heard, and then you correct me, but I heard that including a commercial component is sort of neutral, that you could, but you're not required to. You will not score higher or lower if you do. Is that accurate?
I see 2 head shakings, yes. I see no head shaking, no's.
Yep.
So I think that's accurate.
Thank you. Well, this is super helpful. So this will go into an RFP, which you will have at the next meeting.
Great, thank you. So with that, we'll close that one. Other business. We have listed on here is Tuesday, June 21st at 12:30. Any major objections to a regular scheduled meeting? Penny?
No, that's fine. I want to talk about the expiring seats, and I don't know how this happened, but every single one of us, except for Brooks at-large seat, expires now, this year.
Yeah, it's funny how they're not offset a little bit better.
It's really odd. And so there are 4 that are appointed by the select board. Brian, it's your seat, right?
Yes.
It's your seat. It's the balance of Brooks at-large term, which goes till 2023. And then Rima and Shanta. And then I'm appointed by the Housing Authority, and I've requested to be reappointed. And then Brooke just got appointed by the select board. And then there's the NP and EDC seat. So I guess I wanted to remind those that want to stay on that you have to get your application in. I think, Sully, is it the 27th?
That's my impression, yes.
Okay.
That is correct.
And that's to Erica's, your application into Erica's office.
Noon
By
on Friday.
noon on the 27th.
I sent it last week.
Oh, good. Okay, so you're staying, hopefully. And then, Ryan, have you talked to Shanta?
I have not.
Okay.
I left a voicemail at what I thought was her voicemail, but I have not.
Okay, so right now we're looking, there's going to be at least one new person, right? To fill the balance of Brooks' term.
Yes.
Can we try and find maybe somebody, I don't know if we're allowed to put out there what we're looking for, but it'd be nice to get somebody with some construction or building or design or permitting experience, given where we're headed with what we're taking on in the next year or so.
Absolutely.
I would encourage that. I would encourage all applicants to come forward, but I'd love anybody in the trades that could help as we move into this RFP process and going vertical on stuff. It would be exciting to have a little experience on that end.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, I see Mr. Cassidy. Is that, yeah, okay. Billy, go ahead.
I'd like to nominate Brooke Meerbergen if I could, please.
Well, you should call
Call them up.
him up.
Billy, there's no nominations. All you have to do is have him fill out the request application form and file it by noon on Friday.
Ken, I might have to hold him down to do it, but I'm going to encourage him.
Good.
Well, bring him into my office.
I'll help you hold him down, Billy.
Excellent.
Okay. Any other, Tucker, more new business?
Well, on the subject of people, we are very much in need of a replacement for Ally. So if there are folks that you all come across in your travels who you think would be a good candidate, we are anxious to get someone in here because we are overloaded. Yep.
Anxious is perhaps the kindest word you could have used. Desperate, absolutely unreasonably unwilling to, in fact, think about coming into the office. Please help.
Here's a quick question. I'm actually interviewing somebody on Friday for a part-time position here who might be a good fit for you guys, but how many hours a week is it?
It's a full-time job, 40 hours a week.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
We may be willing to share for a period.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure I'm willing to share.
Oh, come on now.
Mr.
Maybe.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
to Tucker and Ken, I told a young man who I think very highly of a week and a half ago or so about that position. I'm wondering if he reached out.
I have not directly heard from anyone with interest, but it could be possible that he reached out to the HR office as well.
Because I have not heard from anybody either, Billy.
Is there a procedure that must be followed here, or can he can he just, contact you guys directly?
He can contact us directly, and if it looks like it makes sense, we will put him in touch with HR to make sure the process goes forward correctly.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay, with that, it seems like we have to do a little due diligence on understanding who is available for the vice chair seat. So why don't we'll carry that to the next meeting for any nominations. Go ahead, Penny.
Yeah, you could ask for volunteers, but I have to say, I don't think, well, Brian, we also have to talk about you staying on as chair. Is that what you're willing to do?
That's a conversation I'm open to, yes.
So let's have those conversations at the same time then.
Great.
It has to be posted as an agenda item anyway in
Right.
order to have it, so.
Right.
So
I
we'll
will-
make sure.
I will do some research as to whether I can, and then I will do some thinking about whether I can.
Well, the thing is that Brooke, in everything that I've seen, I don't think there is anything that precludes you because of as a select board becoming an officer of one of the committees. But you might just want to double check with Libby through town council. But I don't see anything that in and of itself prima facie says you can't do it.
And then it's a matter of bandwidth.
That's correct as well.
So I guess what I'm saying is if anyone else is willing or interested.
I think we need to post it and then we'll all talk about it together.
Great. Okay, so with that, that's other business. We'll close that. Board comments. Seeing none, I'll close board comments. Item 11 is executive session. Looking for a motion for executive, Tucker.
Just Vicky, a question on executive session. So if we go into executive session and we have a quorum and then someone needs to recuse for an item, are we okay with the remainder continuing?
About to get accepted into executive session for Affordable Housing Trust.
John, can you please mute yourself, please? Thank you.
Sorry,
go ahead, Vicky.
So you're not gonna have.
If we only have 4 going in, which is the minimum, and one person has to recuse, can we continue the discussion without that, with less than 4?
Well, then, I mean, any decisions you make are not gonna be, you're not gonna be able to make any decisions.
No votes can be taken, but discussion can occur, right?
Right.
Tucker,
Yep.
I'll stay. Just make it snappy, guys.
Okay, ready, set. Who's got the
I'll say,
motion?
okay, I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, Penny.
All right, I'll make a motion that we go into executive session for the to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property where an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body, not to return to the regular session.
Second.
Second from Brooke by roll call. Brooke Moore.
Aye.
Rima Sherry.
Aye.
Dave Iverson.
Aye, and send me the link, please.
Penny Dye.
Aye.
And
Aye.
Brian Sullivan's an aye. See you there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.